Hello and welcome to episode 130 of Glitch Report. My name is GnittWitt. Thank you so much for stopping by, saying hi, kicking it with me today on the stream of dreams, the shows, and everything in between. We got a huge amount of video game news to get to on this week's episode. We're talking Nintendo. We got a whole bunch of EA news, Xbox and PlayStation, and some maybe a little more sprinkled in towards the end, which is great because I have actually not spent that much time playing video games this week. I'm a little behind on my gaming. I was playing through and continue to play through a little game called Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I was on Chapter 2 last we spoke. I am on Chapter 3 now. So I've not made a huge amount of progress in that game from a story perspective and things like that. But we'll talk about it. What little I have to add to the conversation surrounding Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I'll contribute to the best I can. It's almost like a group project in school where you are really just confused as to where the group is going, what you're trying to accomplish, how you're going to contribute. So you just write your name on the assignment and then that's kind of it. That's where I kind of am at with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Well, we'll talk about that. Just wanted to say, as we get through this podcast today, you can always swing on over to linktree.com/GnittWitt, GnittWitt, for links to all the things that I'm up to. We are currently playing through Fallout New Vegas over on Twitch, and I also am working on some short form video content on your favorite short form video platform, i.e. YouTube Shorts, i.e. Instagram Reels, i.e. TikTok, if TikTok is still a thing. Let's talk about news today. Nintendo has confirmed. We're going to switch things up for a moment and talk about Nintendo. And we're going to talk about Nintendo Switch 2. There is going to be a Nintendo Switch 2 Direct on April 2nd. I think we may have talked about that already. A conference, an event. It's most likely going to be a pre-recorded video. For the record, most videos are pre-recorded. That being said, April 2nd, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time is when they will be doing their big, kind of event for the Nintendo Switch 2. It's expected that this will also be where the console announces, the console release date is announced. They'll also probably show off price and games. This will probably be like the one-stop shop for everything, barring any third-party publishers and developers kind of getting out there and talking about their games either prior to this happening or sometime after the confirmation of the console. Really quick news story to kind of get us started as we ease in to the podcast today. But April 2nd, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 a.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. CST, 2 p.m. GMT for April 2nd for the Nintendo Switch 2 big ol' thing that they're going to do. Speaking of Nintendo Switch 2, let's talk price for a moment. We obviously don't know the price. We don't know really anything about it other than what they physically shown of the console and that there was some sort of Mario Kart game. Now, a lot of people very scared about the price of just about anything these days. My understanding is that the price of eggs has never been higher. Things are going great all over the world. The prices, everyone just, it's a steal of a deal wherever you go. You don't just, how would I put it this way? I was at the grocery store and someone was buying some cheese, some milk, which are the same thing. And in order to pay, they just bent right over, and that cashier, just their whole fist is how they paid for their groceries. Last time I was at the grocery store, which is my way of saying that price is a incredibly sensitive spot when it comes to launching a new video game console. I was just talking to a friend the other day, and they were talking to me about Nintendo and the Switch and all of that stuff. So I'm just going to turn myself down just a little bit in the microphone here, and I'm going to pull up a text message from a friend of mine who was reached out to me, and they were basically asking like, "Hey, do you?" And in fairness, this friend doesn't listen to the podcast. They should. I don't want to call this person out, but this person should be listening to the podcast because I did cover this. But they were basically asking, "Hey, do you think like video game prices are going to go up with tariffs and all that stuff?" And one of the things that I was talking about is that when the consoles last launched, the Xbox Series X and S and the PS5, it was in 2020. So we were already in lockdown, pandemic mode, and all of that stuff. And while people were very eager to not get out of the house for a variety of reasons, they may not have been working. They may not have been doing this and doing that. Some checks were coming in the mail for some folks and stuff like that. Like, let's just go back to, 2020 pandemic for just a moment, right? The economy back then doesn't seem nearly as bad as the economy we have in 2025, right? Like, let's be real. Just think for a moment about what you were doing in like November of 2020. Maybe you were working, maybe you weren't, whatever. What would you rather have? The economy of 2020 or the economy of February 5th, 2025? I think I know what answer I would give. So that is all to say that I think Nintendo is in a very, very tough position when it comes to launching a premium consumer electronic device that is a follow-up to a very, very successful, very, very popular console like the Nintendo Switch. I think the Switch 2, they're talking about, the president is saying they will consider the affordability customers expect from Nintendo. What does that mean? I don't really know what that means. I should know what that means, but what does that mean? Like, I'm sitting here right now. I'm going to go to the Best Buy website for just a moment. Just bear with me here. In Canadian prices, how much does the PS5 cost? I don't know. Like, I'm honestly curious. Okay, so a PS5 digital console costs $579 in Canada. All right. How much does the Nintendo Switch cost right now? So Nintendo Switch. A Nintendo Switch costs about $400 in Canada. All right. You can get the Switch Lite, which doesn't have the dock option, for $259, which is actually kind of a steal of a deal. But basically, you're looking at about $400 for a Switch right now in Canada. You're looking at about $579 for a PlayStation. And just for comparison, let's type in a Series S. How much is a Series S? A Series S is $379. A Series S is even cheaper than a Switch at the moment, which is kind of crazy to think about. So that is all to say, what do you think the Nintendo Switch 2 price will be? What do you think the price will be? Now, just to go back to pricing for the Switch as we currently have it, they also sell an OLED version of the Nintendo Switch, meaning that the handheld version of the Switch has a higher resolution screen. It is a higher quality screen. It's an OLED screen. That is going to be $450 Canadian. Fuck. And I say fuck because it's really hard to put a price on it. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, and I could be wrong. Don't shoot the messenger. I think in Canada, I think this Nintendo Switch 2 is going to come in at $450. That's what I think. I think it's going to be $450 Canadian for a Nintendo Switch. I could be wrong considering, what the cost of a Series S is, but the Series S is already $20 cheaper than a base model Nintendo Switch. Right, so the Series S is like fucking, they're giving those fucking things away, all things considered. So that's my guess is $450 Canadian. It is steep. It is steep for sure, but I think with the the factors of potential tariffs, I know that in Canada a lot of stuff comes in and it's already assembled, right? Your consumer electronic devices and stuff, a lot of that stuff is already manufactured. So when it comes to Canada, you're not necessarily paying those tariffs for manufactured goods, right? But still, we're probably looking at a scenario where there's no way that Nintendo Switch 2 comes in at the same price as the current Switch right now. I just don't see it. I think Nintendo's got to make money. I think everyone's tightening their bootstraps or whatever they're doing, trying to squeeze blood from a stone in this capitalist world we live in. and I just don't see it coming in at 400. I think it's going to be 450 for the Nintendo Switch 2. But, Furukawa, Shintaro Furukawa is the president, and they did their Q3 financial results over there at Nintendo. Furukawa was asked if there's any change to Nintendo's stance on what it constitutes an acceptable price point. Furukawa replied that not only does Nintendo have to take into account Japan's increased inflation rate, it will also consider that the exchange rate environment has changed significantly. Sorry, considerably is the word they used. Considerably since the Switch launched in 2017. However, he noted that Nintendo will also consider the affordability that our customers expect from Nintendo products, saying the company needs to take all these factors into account when considering the price of its products. Furukawa has said that Furukawa said it was taking all of the above into account when pricing Switch, but that it had nothing to announce at this time. He also said that there are no plans to change the price of the original Switch at this time, which I think makes sense. They're not going to cut the price of the Switch until the Switch 2 is out. There's no way they're going to do that. There's some other Switch news to kind of cover. We got a lot of Nintendo news at the start of the show. Pokemon Legends ZA and Metroid Prime 4 are reportedly all still Switch 1 titles for some time in 2025. Nintendo has reaffirmed that both Pokemon Legends ZA and Metroid Prime 4 Beyond are planned to release on the original Switch, despite the 2025 release of Nintendo Switch 2. That doesn't mean that it's not going to come to the, Switch 2. I think we're looking at two scenarios here, and both scenarios are these games coming to Nintendo Switch 2. With ZA, Pokemon Legends ZA is probably going to be a Switch 1 and a Switch 2 game. And I think Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is probably going to be a Switch 1 and Switch 2 game. Now, we've seen this before with Nintendo. You think about Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which came out on the Wii U and the Nintendo Switch at the same time at launch. I don't suspect this is going to be any different with these games because Nintendo probably wants to make as much money as humanly possible when it comes to these games, which means selling them on the console that people already have and selling them on the console that people want to buy. Assuming people want to buy the Nintendo Switch 2, but I think that's probably a fair thing to say. Now, the final thing we're going to talk about with Nintendo Switch is that the Switch 2 is being prepared by Nintendo in a way where they're hoping to avoid scalpers, resellers, bots, that sort of thing. Furukawa has said that Nintendo will put measures in place to prevent Switch 2 scalpers. Does this mean they're going to have significant availability at launch? I just don't think there's a world where you can sell a console with enough availability at launch to appease everybody. There's always going to be scalpers that are willing to take a 25% profit, a 50% profit, lowering their profits to have 12, 25, 80 consoles just sitting around to scalp at a higher price, right? Like there's always going to be somebody looking to make a buck off somebody else making a buck. That's the way the world works. That is to say that, maybe you will be able to have better options for pre-ordering, right? Like maybe pre-orders are going to be more available, but at launch, if you didn't pre-order, it's going to be harder to find one. Like maybe everyone who wants to get one should pre-order because that's going to be the best way to get it. I don't know. I'm looking to buy a Nintendo Switch 2 at launch. We'll see how that goes for me at launch, but they're saying that they want to, make sure that scalpers ain't getting all the consoles. I don't know what that means. If anything, they should just hope and pray that they have enough consoles to meet demand at launch. Video Games Chronicles translated what Furukawa had to say, which is to say that he said, "We will take all possible measures based on the experience we have accumulated to date regarding scalpers and the like. We are making preparations." I hope that means that they just got a lot of them because they're going to need it. Speaking of, getting tongue-tied here. Speaking of me hoping that they have whatever it takes to get this thing done because they're going to need it. EA has confirmed a planned release for its new Battlefield game. The next Battlefield game from EA is scheduled to come out before April of 2026. And EA in a really weird place where even their soccer game not doing so hot. Dragon Age of Veilguard didn't do so hot for them based on their sales. They canceled everything related to Dead Space. They halved the number of people working at BioWare working on that next Mass Effect game. And I really don't think they have any idea what they are doing when it comes to Battlefield. And that's been obvious for some time now. Let me ask you this. When was the last truly great Battlefield game? Was it Battlefield 2046? I don't think so. Was it Battlefield 5 when they returned to World War II? Doubt it. Was it Battlefield 1 where they decided, fuck it, let's make a World War I game because those guns are fun to shoot? No. Was it Battlefield Hardline where in the wake of increased, protest around police brutality, especially in the United States, they decided to make a Battlefield-style game in which you played as the militarized police? Did that game set the world on fire? No. Battlefield 4, which all things considered was not that bad of a game, but had a lot of issues. Is that really like the last great Battlefield game? Or do we have to go back to like Battlefield 3 on the PlayStation 3? That is how far back we have to go. And don't worry, we're going to be talking about how far back we have to go to find other great EA games when we talk about Need for Speed later on in the podcast. But man, oh man, they don't know what they're doing. I'm sure they have, and that's not me to say that I don't think they have smart people working on this game. Like, I think they probably have smart, intelligent folks working on this game, trying to figure out what they're going to do. You know, they're talking about destruction. They're talking about all the, Battlefield stuff, but they also, in this video that I was watching, they're kind of talking about, we want destruction. We want the real Battlefield gritty experience. But also there's this like desperate plea for the community to tell them what they want. And I'm here to tell you that so many of EA's communities have told them what they want, and they so rarely get what they ask for. It's almost like EA listens, says, okay, and then comes out and has their developers produce the worst possible version of the thing that people asked for, to the point where I don't even see people asking for a new Need for Speed game anymore. I don't even see that many people like talking about Battlefield the way they do Call of Duty. Now, before we get too ahead of ourselves, one thing you'll notice on the internet, if you spend any time on it, especially around gaming communities, is that people are always furious about whatever game they're playing. You'll see some motherfucker with like 500 hours in, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, calling it the worst video game ever made. And then you think, well, wait, that can't be possibly right. What idiot would spend 500 hours playing a game that they don't like? But it's just that they have this like, twisted fantasy about the relationship they have with the game that they play, how they play games in general, and the people that make them, right? And that's all to say, if you see people complaining about a game, that usually means that game is doing okay. I don't see people complaining about Battlefield, which leads me to believe it's not doing so great. It's not doing so hot. I don't think people have a lot of interest in Battlefield in general. So I'm not saying this game is dead on arrival or anything like that. I just don't have a lot of hope. So let's talk about the internal studios working on this new Battlefield game. There are 4 internal EA studios, which the company EA has referred to as Battlefield Studios. DICE, who are responsible for its multiplayer component. Motive, who are working on the multiplayer maps for that multiplayer content, as well as single player missions. Criterion, who are the Need for Speed and Burnout people, are working on the single player. And there is a studio called Ripple Effect, which are working on a new experience for the series. Also, by the way, Motive Motive, EA Motive, if you don't know EA Motive, those are the people who worked on the Dead Space game that just came out not that long ago. DICE have been making Battlefield games forever. That's fine. I'm not here to argue about DICE other than that they haven't gotten it done for years now. And then you have people who I would rather see Criterion like have the freedom to make the Need for Speed game or Burnout game they want to make instead of focusing on single player bullshit for Battlefield games. And I would much rather see Motive work on a follow-up to Dead Space if that's what they wanted. Ripple Effect, I don't know much about them, so I wish them all the best of luck. So they're doing closed testing for the Battlefield game. It is part of a series called Battlefield Labs. EA said this is an unprecedented moment for Battlefield. We will start by testing the pillars of play like core combat and destruction, then transition to balance and feedback for our weapons, vehicles, and gadgets, ultimately leading to where all these pieces come together in our maps, modes, and squad play. Now, you can register for a chance to participate in the upcoming tests, which will be distributed to a few thousand players in Europe and North America. Should I sign up? I probably can't talk about it. Like, I bet if I were... Oh, cool. Okay, never mind. I'm like in like a virtual lineup now to sign up for this Battlefield playtest thing, which I don't even know if I really want to even bother with it. I guess here's the thing. When it comes to playtesting some of these games, my thought process is, well, if I don't have to buy the game and I can play some early version of it and then not buy it at launch, that might not be the worst way to go about doing things, because at least I can say I played it, even if it's not very good or if it was unfinished. I don't know if I want to sit in this virtual lineup. Let's close this down and move on to other topics, like Need for Speed. So EA has said that Need for Speed is on hold, but will return in new and interesting ways. This will probably happen after Criterion finishes working on whatever they're doing with Battlefield. So let's kind of cover the history here. One of the people in charge with the Battlefield studios is Respawn co-founder Vince Zampella. He also leads the EA studios responsible for Apex Legends, its Star Wars and Battlefield games, as well. So Vince Zampella doing a lot of stuff. He's also now said that Criterion will be working on Need for Speed after it's done with Battlefield. So let's think for a moment. Earliest this Battlefield game comes out is sometime in 2025, but EA has already put on record saying that they will get out of the way of a Grand Theft Auto 6 release and move their Battlefield game, most likely pushing it back. So then the question becomes, when can we expect a new Need for Speed game? Like 2028? Like realistically, if Battlefield comes out in, like spring 2026, 2028 at the absolute earliest, maybe like late 2028 is when we can expect a new Need for Speed game. And that's probably too liberal of an estimate anyways. This just goes back to my thing of like these long-running franchises have not been doing it at EA. These long-running franchises have not been doing it at EA. They have been few and far between on top of everything else. Will anybody care about Battlefield? Will anybody care about Need for Speed when it comes out? The same way I asked the question, I believe it was last week I asked the question, is anyone even going to be around to care about Mass Effect anymore by the time that game comes out, assuming it comes out? So when I criticize like a company like EA, it's not because I want these games to fail. It's not because I even truly have the knowledge to tell you if this game is going to fail based on the early impressions of the development and structure of these studios. Like, I am just stirring the tea leaves. I am just talking shit. Of course, I understand. But everything that has been presented to me so far does not leave me with a lot of hope, right? I'm not going to hold my breath when it comes to Battlefield. I'm certainly not going to hold my breath when it comes to Need for Speed. And I'm probably not going to hold my breath when it comes to Mass Effect as well. There are so many there's so many games coming out every day. There are so many big games coming out, right? Like I could spend the next 150 hours probably playing, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And then by then, what will the state of the industry even be by the time I'm done that game? I know that sounds ridiculous, but I'm like 10 hours into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. If I put in another 100 hours, like I will have probably missed Assassin's Creed Shadows at that point. I'll have missed Avowed. I'll have missed all these other games that I'll need to go catch up and play. And I'll be just playing catch up forever that I'll probably let a game like Need for Speed pass me by. Because another Forza game will come out, or something will come out. Or I'll go play that Tokyo Extreme Racer game that's out in early access, right? It's so hard to capture people's attention. And it's even harder to capture people's imagination these days, right? And the reason why I split the difference there is because I know that, Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to come out eventually. It is in my mind. I am not necessarily imagining playing it because I just don't know a lot about what that game is going to be. I have some pretty good ideas. I can make some safe bets. But we're just so early in the process of learning about that game that I'm not going to be able to sit down and be like, well, what does Need for Speed mean to me anymore? What does Battlefield mean to me anymore? Because it's just so gone. Like it's just so not a factor at this point in time. EA has done this by giving these developers nothing but uphill battles as far as the eye can see, right? And again, going back to BioWare, they have halved the size of the staff that is working on Mass Effect. When people hear that, what little interest, imagination, attention they might have had towards a game that far out in the future is probably evaporated. I wish everybody at EA the best of luck. I wish everybody working on Battlefield, Need for Speed, Mass Effect, as always, the best of luck. I just think they're going to be in a really tough position with any of these games currently. You don't be surprised if you see EA doubling, tripling, potentially even quadrupling down on the stuff that is selling, which is some of their sports games, with the exception of that football club soccer game that didn't seem to set the world on fire last year. Let's move on. We'll take one more news story and then we'll take our first break. I have a little bit of a sore throat. I have a little bit of a headache, but we're going to get through it. Maybe that headache was because I was talking about EA. Okay. Wreckfest 2. Let's talk about Wreckfest. Wreckfest is a great demolition derby, over the top racing game with kind of a realistic, crashing and physics and stuff like that. Wreckfest is really neat, and they are finally making a sequel to it called Wreckfest 2. I guess surprise, surprise. Wreckfest is going to be the sequel to Wreckfest is called Wreckfest 2. Wreckfest originally came out in June of 2018 after spending years in early access, and Wreckfest 2, same thing. It's going to hit early access on Steam in March. PC players will be able to play Bugbear's Demolition Derby theme sequel next month. It is going to be published by parent company THQ Nordic. At release next month, it will include the base the base game modes of racing, Demolition Derby, and multiplayer. During early access phase, Bugbear will add a revamped career mode, plus a new skill-based matchmaking system and server queues for online races. The sequel will be released on PS5 and Xbox Series X and S at a later date. Do you want me to read what they wrote for this? This is like the game's official description. You want me to just read it? I don't like reading a lot of market copy, but I will. Here we go. Brace yourself for the most phenomenal full contact racing action with no rules. Just jaw-dropping moments of chaos and destruction, powered by the completely overhauled physics engine. Race in intense head-to-head fights on high-speed circuits, face obstacles on crazy courses with jumps, intersections, and oncoming traffic, or go for demolition domination in various derby arenas. Yeah, I'd play another Wreckfest. I never even finished Wreckfest 1 originally, but I think Wreckfest is cool. I think their physics, system for crashing cars is awesome. I just like fucking shit up. I don't know if you know this. Sorry. So I didn't mean to say that with just such like with every ounce of my being, but like I like fucking shit up, and you do a lot of that in Wreckfest. So I'm looking forward to Wreckfest 2. I don't know if I'll check that out in early access, but that game sounds dope. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we got a lot of Xbox news. We got a little bit of PlayStation news. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the podcast. I continue to be GnittWitt. We're going to continue to talk about news. We got some news surrounding 3 games that have been confirmed for PlayStation 5, courtesy of the world's largest third-party video game publisher, Xbox. You know, Xbox. The Xbox people? Yeah, they make PS5 games now. And they've confirmed not 1, not 2, but 3 games. We're going to kick things off talking about Age of Mythology and Age of Empires 2. And I'm going to say this right here, right now. I don't know how good Age of Empires and Age of Mythology is on consoles. I don't know. But I love Age of Empires 2. I might even go as far as to say that Age of Empires 2 is one of my favorite video games of all time. And I'm not a big strategy guy. I'm not a big turn-based strategy guy. I'm not a big real-time strategy guy. But there's something about Age of Empires 2. It's got a certain je ne sais quoi. You know what I'm saying? And I love that game. But anyways, before we get talking about how much I like Age of Empires, Age of Mythology Retold and Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition are real-time strategy games. They originally came out on the PC. They then made their way over to Xbox with controller support, and they've now officially been confirmed for PS5 as well. Those games are going to be coming out March 4th for Age of Mythology Retold, and Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition is coming out in the spring. I'm getting this news from Video Games Chronicles. You thought I forgot, but always shout out to Video Games Chronicles. Michael Mann, head of Xbox's World Edge Studio and the guy who didn't direct Heat, said, quote, I'm delighted to share that we are giving fans more choice to play where they want by bringing Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition and Age of Mythology Retold to PlayStation 5. Playing across all platforms is a game changer for our franchise, and it's all about bringing our community together. This isn't just about convenience, it's about growing and strengthening the Age community. I guess the Age community is what they refer to people who play Age of Empires and Age of Mythology. Anyways, with crossplay, we're creating one global battlefield where every strategy, every empire, and every player matters. Well, that's cool. I think that's smart, right? You know, so for context, when you play like a strategy game like Age of Empires 2, for example, there's a lot of things you can do. You can play like just a random game, right? You can just do like, oh, I'm going to play Britain, and then I'm going to verse this guy who is the Turks or the Goths or the whatever, right? The Byzantines versus Britain for all the world to see. There are also you kind of replaying, recreating moments throughout history and stuff like that. With Age of Mythology, of course, leaning a little more into that fantasy realm, as well as, multiplayer, right? So there is a lot of things that you can do in those games, whether it's just playing random matches or playing through the story modes and all that stuff. But the idea of crossplay, I think, would definitely help if you are somebody who is big into playing those games multiplayer. But that's not the only game that's supposed to be coming out to PS5 courtesy of Xbox. Forza Horizon 5 is coming to PS5 this spring. The port for Forza Horizon 5 is being handled by Panic Button, originally being made by Playground Games and Turn 10 Studios. It will also feature all the content available. Don't get too ahead of myself. The content that is available for the Xbox and PC versions will also be available. They sold a ton of DLC for the game, so I'm assuming that you can buy the base game of Forza Horizon 5. You can get the car packs, you can get the Hot Wheels expansion and the Rally Adventure expansion. But here's what they said. They said, we are excited to see the Forza 5 community grow with new players on PS5, and we can't wait to see the creativity and skill these new creators, builders, and racers will bring to our vibrant community. Panic Button is best known for its impossible Switch port games. They ported games like Doom, Doom Eternal, and Wolfenstein: The New Colossus to the Nintendo Switch. As well as the PS5 port, a new free content update for Forza Horizon 5 called Horizon Realms is coming to all platforms. According to Playground Games, the Realms update will give players the chance to explore a curated collection of some of the community's favorite previously released evolving worlds alongside some other surprises. I don't know what that means. Sorry, I don't know. I'm like, Evolving Worlds. I don't know. I've never heard of Evolving Worlds, but I've played a lot of it, but maybe it's some recent thing that I haven't caught up with. Long story short, I'm going to say this. Unless the PS5 version of this game is fucked, you should buy Forza Horizon 5. Forza Horizon 5 is an incredible video game. I don't care if you are more of an arcade style racer. I don't care if you're more of a realistic sim racer. I don't care if you only like open world games. I don't care if you don't like open world games. Forza Horizon 5 combines the elements of like an arcade style racer with slightly realistic, simulation in some ways, wraps it all up into a beautiful open world with tons of multiplayer options, tons of single player options, tons of content, tons of cars, and it's gorgeous. You should buy Forza Horizon 5 when it comes out on PS5 because it's probably going to be getting so excited. I'm getting choked up here. Forza Horizon 5 is probably going to be the best racing game on PS5 when it comes out. So do that. I'm looking forward to that. That's really neat. I mean, like all seriousness, like I'm not precious to the Xbox games, right? I'm just not precious about it. I think more people should be playing these games if given the opportunity, if given the chance. So for me, I'm all about it, right? Like I've been saying for actually a while now that they should put Forza Horizon out on PS5, and they're finally going to do so this spring. Man, that's fucking dope as hell. Now, speaking of dope as hell, indie games, they're dope, and we're going to find out more about some indie games when Xbox has its next indie games showcase, which is happening this month, February 24th. That is the next ID at Xbox event, February 24th, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. What do you think? Here's what we know. We have a list of some of the studios set to participate in the event. Let me pull that up here. We got studios such as 11-Bit, Big Fan, Critical Reflex, Datalic, Game Source Entertainment, No More Robots, Panic, and PlayStack. Also taking part will be Raw Fury, Thunder Lotus, Cult Games, Team 17, Curve, Acapura, Don't Nod, and Raccoon Logic. The event promises to deliver new trailers, gameplay, and reveals, including the next collaboration for Balatro. Very, very neat. These are going to be quick ones. Just to confirm, The Sims and The Sims 2 did officially come out with the expansions and DLC. So those are out now if you want to check those out. How much are they on Steam? I should have checked. How much are they? I'm typing Steam into Steam. Sims. All right. So they've split this up a couple of ways. You can get The Sims 1 and 2. No, wait a minute. What is this? What am I looking at here? Okay, hold on. Okay. So you can get can you get everything in one? Okay, so here's what we have. The Sims 1 Legacy Collection, which is all the DLC, all the expansions for The Sims. That's out now. That's $30. You can also get The Sims 2, which has all the DLC and everything for The Sims. That is $40. Or you can get something that is called The Sims 25th Birthday Bundle, which is everything from The Sims 1 and 2, plus The Sims 4, plus some DLC for The Sims 4, the Throwback Fit and the Grunge Revival Kit for $55. Keep in mind that The Sims 4 is also free to play. So there is that to consider as well. Let's talk Multiverses. Remember Multiverses? It came out and then it went and then it came back and now it's going again. Multiversus' 5th season will be its last, with the game being delisted at the end of May. The game will be playable offline for the foreseeable future, as said by Warner Brothers Games. Season 5 will run from February 5th to May 30th, at which point the game will be going offline and delisted from the PlayStation Store, Microsoft Store, Steam, and Epic Games Store. The game's blog post reads, no, I don't want to do that. The game's blog post reads, after careful consideration, our next season will serve as the final season content update for the game. All online features will continue until season 5 concludes on May 30th at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. At that point, there will be an option to play Multiverses offline via the local gameplay modes, either solo or co-op against AI opponents or with up to 3 friends. To do this, you'll need to install and download the latest version of the game and log in during Season 5 anytime during February 4th until May 30th. After logging in, a local save file will automatically be created and connected to your PlayStation Network, Microsoft Store, whatever account, right? Allowing you to enjoy the game offline with all earned and purchased content moving forward. Real money transactions are no longer available in the game, but the players with remaining Gleamium currency and character tokens can continue to spend them on in-game content until the game goes offline May 30th. Players will not be refunded for any Gleamium or other content purchased with real money. They said this decision was not made lightly. All of us on the Player First Games and Warner Brothers Games teams have put our hearts and souls into Multiverses, creating a unique social and cooperative experience from the ground up that brings together a variety of characters variety of popular characters and worlds. We are very proud of the game we have built and are incredibly thankful for the support of the Multiverses community throughout this journey. Your passion and enthusiasm have been unmatched. So I'm going to go to Steam and I'm going to type in Multiverses. I'm going to type in Multiverses. Here we go. I own it, so they can't take it from me. My question is, shouldn't they just put everything for free? Like, I'm probably not going to install this game. I'm probably not going to download this game. But shouldn't they just, it's the least they can do, right? It's just to make all the stuff that they were selling for free. I'm like this close to just fucking installing the game and seeing what the state of it is, but I don't know if I want to do that. I probably won't do that. Let's move on to more news instead. Final news story, Shang-Chi star Simu Liu says that his dream is a Sleeping Dogs movie. And, he wants to make that happen. And I say, more power to him. Unfortunately, this has been such a long-running thing in the games industry. Before that, action movie star Donnie Yen was in talks to, make a Sleeping Dogs game, which, for context, just back up. Sleeping Dogs came out in 2012. Okay? The movie for Sleeping Dogs was announced back in 2017. It has now been canceled. Now, Simu Liu, who played Shang-Chi, has suggested on Twitter that he will try to make this movie a reality. I'm not making fun of the man. Just hear me out. So here's what happened. On Twitter, a user asked Liu if he was playing Wei in a theoretical Sleeping Dogs film. Liu replied that he was working with the rights holders to bring Sleeping Dogs to the big screen. Now, Liu has explained his dreams in more detail, posting on Twitter that he wants to see a Sleeping Dogs film followed by a new game, but that it's been a struggle trying to get the former improved. He says, so few film projects make it from pitch phase to green light. Pitching execs who don't understand the game has been tiring. Everyone's overwhelming love of Sleeping Dogs here has really given us life. First a movie, then a sequel game for everyone. That's always been the dream. In an interview with Polygon earlier, Donnie Yen said that the Sleeping Dogs film announced 8 years ago was essentially dead. He said, I spent a lot of time and did a lot of work with these producers, and I even invested some of my own money into obtaining the drafts and some of the rights. I waited for years, and I really want to do it. I have all these visions in my head, and unfortunately, I don't know. You know how Hollywood goes, right? I spent many, many years on it. It was an unfortunate thing. Okay, so here's the thing. I like Donnie Yen, and I like Simu Liu. I'm all for it. They want to make a movie, they better make it happen. But like, Sleeping Dogs is kind of a cult classic. If you never played Sleeping Dogs, it's an open world crime action game. It was originally going to be the third true crime game. It was going to be like True Crime Streets of Hong Kong. Then it got turned into a game called Black Lotus. Then eventually, Activision scrapped the whole thing. Square Enix picked it up and then put it out finally. Sleeping Dogs, it is a great game. Undeniably, the definitive edition of Sleeping Dogs is a great game. If you want a good, fun, open world action game, crime action game, undercover cop, gritty, martial arts fighting, shooting and driving cars, all that stuff, Sleeping Dogs is a great game. Sleeping Dogs is, you're not going to hear an argument from me. But that game came out in 2012, Sleeping Dog. I don't know who is going to be particularly excited about a game that was a cult classic and came out a long time ago. But if they do it, I'm all for it. Thumbs up. That's it for news. Man, oh man, that's it for news. Let's talk about the games that I've been playing. And really the game that I've been playing is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I was quite focused on trying to do almost all of the side content in the initial open world area that you get. But at some point I was like, man, there's like 16 chapters in this game or something. I'm on chapter 2. Let's put the pedal to the metal and try to move on with the story of this game. And I have done so, but I did not, unfortunately, make a lot of progress. That is not me saying that I don't enjoy the game. I'm almost like 10 hours into the game. Like, I wouldn't have put 10 hours into this game if I wasn't enjoying it for the most part. And I don't find it to be as, like, how would I put it? I don't find it to be as tedious as something like Final Fantasy 16. I'd much rather play Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth than 16. It's just an area where I don't have a lot of time between working and stuff, right? Like when I'm here on my days off making content, I'm often making content, or I'm playing Fallout New Vegas, which you can find me doing that every Friday morning, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard over at twitch.tv/GnittWitt, or the archive up on YouTube. But I just haven't had a lot of time. So my commitment to you, if I can make such a commitment, is that I would like to play more of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and have a lot more to talk about sometime next week. Super Bowl is on Sunday. I'm actually off that day. I'm not even working that day. So maybe I'll have a chance to play more of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth before I watch some dang football that day. So I have time. I'm going to try to make more time. I just haven't had as much time as I would like to play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I still enjoy it. I'm still trying to do a lot of the side quests. I'm still trying to get through hours of the story. Looking at my friends list of people who have played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, they played a hell of a lot more of it than me. I'm also trying to get a little bit of exercise in and not be such a slubby piece of shit when it comes to this goopy body that I live in. That's not me trying to pick on myself. That's just me having a laugh. So if you don't mind, I don't really have a lot to say. About Final Fantasy VII Rebirth at this time. So come on back next week where we'll have more to talk about. I have been playing Fallout New Vegas. When it comes to the stream and the game, I think we're probably going to try to clean up a lot of the side quests that I have in that game so far and then maybe start to beeline it when it comes to some of the story. I don't know how much of the DLC, if any of the DLC, we will cover in the playthrough, but we're like up, I think 8 episodes into this series, and every episode's almost like a 2-hour thing, right? So I've put a lot of hours into Fallout 76 at this time. Don't get me wrong. It's just a scenario where, you know, I don't know if I want to keep doing this for the next 2 months, 3 months, right? You know, I'm playing it once a week. I'm only playing it on the stream. So I'm wondering if at some point I should start to wrap it up. But we'll see. I'm still really enjoying the game. Don't get me wrong. It's just a scenario where, like, when you're this deep into a game that could possibly never end and you're making content around it, you have to think, like, how long should I start to wrap this up, right? Like, when you start working on a movie or a TV show or some sort of other creative project, you kind of have an idea of when you can expect it to end, right? If I look over on the Epic Game Store launcher, I'm going to launch the Epic Game Store, and I'm going to see how many hours I have in Fallout New Vegas. Just give me a moment here. It says that I have like 19 hours in the game. I don't know if that is 100% reflective in the content that I have. Let's see here. If I do some math, don't mind me. I'm just going to do some quick math here. 2.5 plus 2.5 plus 2.5 plus 2.5. So yeah, okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah. I was counting up the episodes that we've done so far and doing some math in my head. So yeah, I'm like, like 16, 19 hours, give or take, in Fallout. 19-ish hours into the game. Will I still be playing the game after another 20 hours? We'll find out. I mean, I don't think you're going to get the full Fallout New Vegas experience without putting in close to, 50 or so hours into that game. Like, there is a lot to that game. If you go to howlongtobeat.com, Fallout New Vegas, How Long to Beat says it takes you about 27 hours to play through the main story. But if you are doing side content, side quests and extra stuff, you're probably looking at anywhere from like 60 to 150 hours. So it's a big game, and I'm more than happy to keep playing through it. I'm just like, kind of looking far enough into the future and being like, are we going to be done by March? Right? We're not going to be done by the time Avowed comes out unless I sit there and I do 5-hour episodes of Fallout 76 for the next, month or so. But we'll see. Maybe it's a scenario where we're going to sit down and do a couple longer sessions for Fallout. I keep saying Fallout 76, excuse me. If Fallout New Vegas, maybe a scenario where for this Friday, we're going to do maybe a 3.5-hour long session with Fallout New Vegas, trying to make some serious progress in that game. I'm not too sure, but I will further commit that we'll play some, I'm going to play some Fallout New Vegas every Friday until that game is done. And I'm going to play some Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, so I have more to talk about for next week's show. Just so happens that the two main games that I'm playing are two huge open world action RPGs. So, there's a lot to get through, but there's a lot of stuff that is, repetitive and things like that. So I don't have a lot of new stuff to talk about at the moment. But you know what? That's okay, because we have news and everything else. And that's going to do it for the podcast this week. I have been GnittWitt. You can find everything that I do over at my Linktree. That is linktree.com/GnittWitt, GnittWitt, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky. I am not on Twitter anymore. I don't know why I said that, but I am here every Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Podcast is usually up Wednesday night, sometime after Dynamite, if you know what that is. And that's going to do it for the show. Thank you so much for listening and hanging out. We'll see you next week. Take it easy.